Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you happen to see this, hear this. The Miracle of Mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh. On exercises on mindfulness, we are with compassion for the person you hate or despise the most. Sit quietly, breathe and smile, the half smile. Contemplate the image of the person who has caused you the most suffering. Regard the features you hate or despise the most or find the most repulsive. Try to examine what makes this person happy and what causes suffering in their daily life. Contemplate the person's perceptions. Try to see what patterns of thought and reason this person follows. Examine what motivates this person's hopes and actions. Finally, consider the person's consciousness. See whether their views and insights are open and free or not, and whether or not they have been influenced by any prejudices, narrow-mindedness, narrow-mindedness, hatred or anger. Continue and see whether or not this person is a master of self, of him or herself. Continue until you feel compassion rise in your heart like a well filling with fresh water, and your anger and resentment disappear. Practice this exercise many times on the same person. You can pause. Suffering caused by the lack of wisdom. Sit in the full or half lotus. Begin to follow your breath. Choose the situation of a person, family, or society which is suffering the most of any you know. This will be the object of your contemplation. In the case of a person, try to see every suffering which that person is undergoing. Begin with the suffering of bodily form, sickness, poverty, physical pain, and then proceed to the suffering caused by feelings, internal conflicts, fear, hatred, jealousy, a tortured conscience. Consider next the suffering caused by perceptions, pessimism, dwelling on their problems with a dark and narrow viewpoint. See whether their mind functionings are motivated by fear, discouragement, despair, or hatred. See whether or not their consciousness is shut off because of their situation, because of their suffering, because of the people around them, their education, propaganda, or a lack of control of themselves. Meditate on all these sufferings until your heart fills with compassion like a well of fresh water, and you are able to see that the person suffers because of circumstances and ignorance. Resolve to help that person get out of their present situation through the most silent and unpretentious means possible. In the case of a family, follow the same method. Go through all the sufferings of one person and then on next and then on to the next person until you have examined the sufferings of the entire family. See that their sufferings are your own. See that it is not possible to reproach even one person in that group See that you must help them liberate themselves from their present situation by the most silent and unpretentious means possible. In the case of a society, take the situation of a country suffering war or any other situation of injustice. Try to see that every person involved in the conflict is a victim. See that no person, including all those in warring parties or in what appear to be opposing sides, desires the suffering to continue. See that it is not only one or a few persons who are to blame for the situation. See that the situation is possible because of the clinging to ideologies and to an unjust world economic system, which is held by every person through ignorance or through lack of resolve to change it. See that two sides in a conflict are not really opposing, but two aspects of the same reality. See that the most essential thing in life and that killing or oppressing one another will not oh, solve anything. See that the most essential thing is life and that killing or oppressing one another will not solve anything. Remember the sutra's words. In the time of war, raise in yourself the mind of compassion. Help living beings, abandon the will to fight. Whether there is furious battle, use all your might to keep both sides' strength equal, and then step into the conflict to reconcile. Vimalakirti Nirdesa. Meditate until every reproach and hatred disappears, and compassion and love rise like a well of fresh water within you. Vow to work for awareness and reconciliation by the most silent and unpretentious means possible. And I will stop here. And one last, oh, no, I'm going to continue. Finish. Detached action. Sit in the full or half lotus. You can pause, remember. Follow your breath. Take up a project in rural development or any other project which you consider important as a subject of your contemplation. This is a very important project for me to finish reading mindfulness. Examine the purpose of the work, the methods to be used, and the people involved. Consider first the purpose of the project. See that the work is to serve, to alleviate suffering, to respond to compassion, not to satisfy the desire for praise or recognition. See that the methods used encourage cooperation between humans. Don't consider the project as an act of charity. Nope, I don't consider this as an act of charity. No, I've noticed how good it's been to me, and I want to share it with you. Consider the people involved. Do you still see in terms of ones who serve and ones who benefit? If you can still see who are the ones serving and who are the ones benefiting, your work is for the sake of yourself and the workers and not for the sake of service. If you can still see who are the ones serving and who are the ones benefiting, nope, I don't see that. Your work is for the sake of yourself and the workers and not for the sake of service. The Pranaparamita Sutra says the Bodhisattva helps row living beings to the other shore, but in fact, no living beings are being helped to the other shore except myself, I add. Determined to work in the spirit of detached action. Detachment. Pause again if you want. Sit in the full or half lotus. Follow your breath. Recall the most significant achievements in your life and examine each of them. Examine your talent, your virtue, your capacity, the, the convergence of favorable conditions that have led to success. Examine the complacency, complacency, compliance, the gratitude, maybe. I think not, because examine the complacency and the arrogance that have arisen from the feeling that you are the main cause for such success. Nope. If this man hadn't written this, I wouldn't be reading it. Shed the light of interdependence on the whole matter to see that the achievement is not really yours. Never doubted it. But the convergence of various conditions beyond your reach. See to it that you will not be bound to these achievements. Only when you can relinquish them can you really be free and no longer assailed by them. Recall the bitterest failures in your life and examine each of them. Pause. Examine your talent. Pause. Your virtue, your capacity, and the absence of favorable conditions that led to the failures. Examine to see all the complexes that have arisen within you from the feeling that you are not capable of realizing success. Shed the light of interdependence on the whole matter to see that failures cannot be accounted for by your inabilities, but rather by the lack of favorable conditions. See that you have no strength to shoulder these failures, that these failures are not your own self. See to it that you are free from them. Only when you can relinquish them can you really be free and no longer assailed by them. Contemplation on non-abandonment. Sit in the full or half lotus. Remember, pause. Follow your breath. Apply one of the exercises on interdependence, yourself, your skeleton, or one who has died. See that everything is impermanent and without eternal identity. See that although things are impermanent and without lasting identity, they are nonetheless wondrous. While you are not bound by the conditioned, neither are you bound by the non conditioned. See that the saint, though this person is not caught by the teaching of interdependence, neither does this person get away from the teaching, although they can abandon the teaching as if it were cold ashes. Still, they can dwell in it and not be drowned. Be like a boat upon the water. Contemplate to see that awakened people, while not being enslaved by the work of serving living beings, never abandon their work of serving living beings. So we don't enslave, and I am not enslaved. Finished. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Until the next video, audio. Thank you. Whoops. Here we go. Now, thank you.